Okay. All right. Good evening. Welcome to our actual work session at 5:30 this April 6, 2026. Hope everybody had a wonderful Easter weekend. Hopefully get to enjoy lots of family time. I'm going to start this off with Nathan coming up, if you don't mind, just to give us a very brief overview of who we're hearing from. We're hearing from Urban 3, Economics of Community Design. But just as a reminder, this is a work session. We're here to listen. If some council members have questions, please ask, but I know this is mainly to learn and listen from Urban 3. So I will turn it over to Nathan Woods unless someone else says, reminder, we have ADA devices up to my right, Jeremiah. That's it. Turn it over to Nathan. Thank you.
Sure. Any introduction I'll give will probably sell these guys short, so they'll do a much better job at introducing themselves. I will just tell you how we came to know Urban 3. They pretty popular in urban planning circles. Jacob and I have been a fan of their work for some time, and Jacob attended the Strongtown conference last year where he heard Joe speak. I've heard Joe speak in the past as well. So tonight what we're really going to look at is truly what the title of the presentation is, just in economics of land use and how we should think about that at a theoretical perspective, but then also drilling it down to how it works in Clemson's community. And with that, I'll turn it over to Joe.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nathan, and thanks, Mayor and Council, for having us do this work. And I'd also like to point out Jonathan Angelito was the analyst on this project, so you have both of us here. We come up from Asheville, North Carolina. I'm going to give you a lot of nerdy information, but I want to try to find a way to contextualize it first. And when I talk to cities and talk to people in communities, I have to I place it in an easier way to kind of understand, which is think about your own DNA. So if you want to see how I started my life, this is when I was 3 months old, and I had hair. I also have a wobbly eye. And this is my trajectory. I'm going to be Papa, whether I like it or not. Or more importantly, I'm going to be this guy, again, when I had hair. So we understand that about ourselves, our DNA, our growth. And you see, as you become older, you become your parents, and it's kind of scary. And these are things that you can change, you can adapt from. Or there's things you can't. So in the case of my family, I'm Italian. You'll see that by how much I use my hands. But we also have a genetic predisposition to heart disease in my family. So that's a real thing in my family that I have to pay attention to. So I have to exercise and eat right and do all of those things. If there's anything I can do to help you understand cities is think in your mind, who is Clemson? What are you going to be when you grow up? You are changing. You will be changing. You've changed a lot from the past. What's your DNA? And what are the things you're doing to avoid certain problems? So in Asheville, North Carolina, we look at Charlotte, Atlanta, and we're like, okay, we've got to pay attention to that growth pattern because we know what's happening to us. We've seen that heart attack, if you will. So I'm going to give you a lot of information. I've gone to a lot of different communities, and I'll ask you, like, what's Clemson in the future? Who is it? Is it Athens? Is it, I hate to bring in the SEC, but is it Chapel Hill? What are these places you're looking at, and what heart attacks have they had? So Asheville, I don't know if you all know this Asheville. This is Asheville in the 80s, completely boarded up. This is the 90s. And we had this attitude that we weren't a city. We're just a rural community. We're just, we're not going to be Charleston. We're not going to be these other places. And we sort of neglected who we were as a place. Asheville was the second largest city in North Carolina by the 1930s. Did y'all know that? The only city that was bigger than Asheville was Winston-Salem. We achieved the highest debt per capita of the entire United States in the 1920s. And when our books were audited, we thought we had $5 million in the bank. It turned out we had $18,000 in the bank. Our entire city council was indicted and the mayor committed suicide. That's how Asheville entered the Depression. So when you all come up and look at Asheville, you're looking at this legacy of an old city that we left behind and laid fallow until the 70s. I worked for Julian Price's company. Julian Price grew up in Greensboro. He inherited a lot of money. He moved to Asheville and created a for-profit real estate development company called Public Interest Projects. You probably never heard of that company, but you know our products. The Orange Peel, Salsa, Zombras, Malaprop's bookstore. We were essentially fixing buildings and starting businesses along the way. It was like a revolving fund. So this is one of our buildings before and after. That's the Malaprop's building. That's an old hotel. It was the original Asheville Hotel from the 1920s. We put 400 to 400 square foot apartments there. The banks told us it would never work. No one would ever live in a 400 square foot apartment. And I usually joke to audiences when I present at conferences, and I'll ask the audience, who would live in a 400 square foot apartment? And usually like one hand goes up. And then I change the question and say, who has lived in a 400 square foot apartment? And 90% of the hands go up. We've all been in that situation in life where new to town, recently graduated, recently divorced, whatever. You know, it just, needs are different for different people. You need to think about the diversity of your community. So this has been 99% leased up ever since. Y'all probably been to the Malaprops bookstore. So while we're doing this stuff, we're constantly talking with our community about why does it matter for them? As we do this real estate development, why does it matter for you taxpayers what's going on? What's the data going on with this? And if we're a real estate development corporation, what are you all? You know, we're essentially starting businesses, we're fixing buildings, but we're all in this together. Our action on real estate affects the community. If you look up the word incorporate in the Oxford American Dictionary, it says to constitute a company, a city, or other organization as a legal corporation. By law, y'all are a board of directors of a multi-billion-dollar corporation. Your county is also a corporation. The state of South Carolina is a corporation. Our country is a corporation. It's not that it's a capitalist corporation, it's a social corporation. We're all in it together. Somebody has to pay for those streets, the police officers. This is how you run a community. So you share and pool your resources. So my city, Asheville's $14 billion in taxable value, which is 7 times the value of Ted Turner. You know, does Ted Turner just look at Facebook and see who's ranting about something to make a decision? No. He's looking at data, seeing how this thing operates. So my city, and I don't know if you know this about North Carolina, but my state made it illegal for my city to annex land in 2010. We're the only city in North Carolina that's not allowed to annex land. So those acres are all that we have. That's it. So think of it like a contained farm. If you talk to farmers, farmers talk in productivity terms. What's the crop yield per acre, the labor per acre? It's a finite boundary for their corporation called the farm. How does it operate? So let's think of a crop. This is a building that we rehabbed. So we did ground floor retail, second floor office, upper stories residential. It was an old JCPenney's department store that we renovated. We wouldn't have done it had the city not took the leadership to build the sidewalk. So the city invested in the public realm. We came in and fixed the building. And we were actually accused of being subsidized. People are like, you didn't pay for that sidewalk. It's like, okay, fine. Thank you, city, for the garbage can, the bike rack, 2 benches, and a street tree. Awesome. We took the taxable value from $300,000 to $11 million. So what you all get in taxes is 3,500% more taxes on an asset that was already there. Go out and buy 3,500% more garbage cans. We don't care. Build wealth, right? And again, people have biases. They're like, well, Joe, that's cute. That's $11 million. We've got this Walmart over here that's $20 million. If you just took the values of these 2 buildings, yes, $20 million is better than $11 million. But it took 34 acres of my farm to make that happen versus 0.2 acres. Those are 2 totally different crops, right? So the yield on this, taxes per acre, we're paying 100 times more property taxes, double the sales taxes, a lot more residents, and more jobs. So here's a question. If you have a limited commodity of land, how do you best want to use it? What's going to give you the best yield? The stuff that's in blue, right? Conversely, as a developer, if I get taxed less for building you a cheaper building, consuming more of your real estate, why wouldn't I do that? And this isn't to hate Walmart. This is just to understand the cash flow of what's going on in your own community. So I want you to realize I just blew through a lot of stuff. This isn't complex math that I'm doing here. It's 5th grade division. Think of it this way. Imagine we're all talking about cars, and I said my pickup truck gets 650 miles per tank. As soon as I say that, you know how weird that is. We don't say miles per tank. We say miles per gallon, because every tank is different sizes. When you say miles per gallon, the numbers change, and we should all be driving BMW Acetas is 70 miles per gallon. Sorry to the Prius owners. It's a joke. It's also a very dangerous little car. The only way in and out of that thing is the front door. So if you have a collision in that thing, you're stuck. But it's highly efficient, right? So this is about productivity. So this is a data set of like 60 different cities and 21 different states. We just mashed up the data. For every $1 of taxes your cousin out in the county pays in single family to the county, the brother or sister that's in the city is paying 5 times that to the same county. Then there's the Walmart, the mall, a 2-story building, a 3-story building, and a 6-story building. This is all under the high-rise threshold. And it's real simple. As you stack your stories, you're stacking up your dollar bills. Conversely, as I do 1-story buildings and stretch out, the less taxes I pay. It's that simple. Does that all make sense? You know, I was doing this stuff like 10 years ago, and everybody's like, why do you hate Walmart? And it's like, you're missing the point. I presented at this International Association of Assessing Officers conference. Did y'all ever hang out with assessors?
I bet it's a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah, it makes a planning conference feel like Burning Man. It was like the squarest conference ever. This guy got up at 8:30 in the morning, and he did this amazing presentation on how cheap Walmarts are. And I was like, wow, like that's amazing. You've got 3,000 assessors in one room, and you're getting all of your property tax bills lowered with one meeting. That's smart, right? Now, I used to work in government, and I was like, I'm also trained as an architect, so I'm having a coronary. I'm like, how is he getting away with this? He's basically walking in the room going, I'm gonna pay the least amount of taxes in your community. Y'all cool with it? And everybody's like, you know, assessors are agnostic. If it's a cheap building, it's a cheap building. It's not their fault. So I went up to the microphone and I asked him, I said, Mr. Terrell, what's the useful life of one of your buildings? And he goes, 15, 20 years. We designed the building to depreciate it as much as possible. We'll build another building and depreciate it down again. We don't care about the buildings, they're throwaway. Cool. Don't hate the player, hate the game. But you better understand the game if you're gonna play it, right? So they're playing this game in your community. It's your corporation. Their commitment to your corporation is 15, 20 years. Is that good enough for you? That's the life cycle of a cat. We at least, I'm a dog person, sorry, but it's, this is a joke. I'm like showing you like, this is how the operation works that you're managing. And we sometimes don't understand it or don't see it. So there's a couple lessons I wanna put in here before I get into the data. We need to relearn the way that cities operate. This is a kid's book that I found in a garage sale. I mean, I hate to point this out, but it's the teacher's guide. So you see the T on the spine. It's the city, the town, and the country. This is a kid's book from 1959, 3rd grade lesson plan. And it's the teacher's guide, so it has this whole thing about how to be a teacher in it. And notice, like on the left is the series of books in the grade school. So this is one of those Dick and Jane books kind of styles. Kindergarten, you learn about your house. 1st grade, the school. 2nd grade, the neighborhood. 3rd grade, you learn about regional planning. Did y'all do that? Learn about regional planning when you're in 3rd grade? Like apparently we used to teach this in civics.
Yeah.
And here's like from the lesson plan for you all the teachers. Let's go ahead and read this together. While patterns vary from state to state, counties are usually responsible for education, library, health, welfare, etc. Now let's jump to the 2nd paragraph. In studying the functions performed by your county, you will no doubt find there's a duplication of services and overlapping of jurisdictions and a lack of coordination between the county and the communities within it. Y'all have that problem? 1959. Is the county in here? You all are county taxpayers. You're producing wealth for the county. You're in it together, right? But it's this limitation, and we have the same problem in Asheville, trust me. It's not understanding how we're all connected in this. So here's the lesson plan. It's painfully white. It's also super misogynistic. The girls are shoved out in the hallway. But you see on the left-hand side what's going on. There's a new factory that gets built. There's even more kids that go to school. And the children are basically overcrowding the room. So in blue, you ask your 3rd graders, give 4 good reasons for building a new school. And your 3rd graders talk about equity, right? Everybody should have a desk. We should get another teacher. That's called infrastructure, right? We have to buy more stuff. On the right-hand page, you learn about Mr. Canfield. He lived next door to the Allens. He said, our taxes are too high now. If we build a new school, we'll need more teachers and everything else it takes to run a school. That is true. You all see this with your budget. You're having budget hearings right now. You're trying to figure out how to run a city. It costs money, right? So in blue up there, you ask, why would some people have to pay higher taxes and why are some people against paying higher taxes? This is a 3rd grade textbook. And 3rd graders talked about need and cost in 2 pages. City after city that I go to, we've sort of lost these understandings. We come in with our beliefs of how cities operate. They bring them to you and complain to you about stuff without bringing information, without understanding the data, without understanding the cost that you have to pay for things. It's not cheap to run a city. Does that make sense? So in this book, and I have the whole thing scanned if you want it, it's It's pretty depressing to read. Remember, too, that many children, whether urban and rural, and regardless of region, are tragically limited in their knowledge of their world and their worlds of space in which they live and operate. We're not trained in the civics anymore. People don't understand what you all have to do and how you decide things and the costs and consequences of these decisions. You would love to have the entire budget funded, but you can't. You have to make difficult choices. So understanding that and increasing that, hopefully this presentation will do that. The other lesson I want to bring forward is how to get ideas. You're going to grow. The school's going to change. That school is your anchor for how this place operates. So you have to have ideas on how to adapt. Saying no isn't going to be helpful for you. When I worked in government, our city manager brought in a political consultant, and this is my own cartoon of how it operated. I wish I'd got the guy's name, but he was describing socio-political groups and how humans operate. And in any community, you've got 6% of your population that are your visionaries. These are your creative people. You all know these people in town, plenty of ideas. They're just spilling out of ideas. Don't ever put them on a committee. You'll kill them. They're not good for that. They're good with ideas. They're not good with process. Then you've got 15% that are people like y'all. You understand civics. You understand that people have to do things. These are folks that are in on the Rotary Club. They're part of nonprofit boards. These are the people that stand up on behalf of the community. That's it. Those are the only people that get things done. Everybody else is busy. They got their kids in school, they're doing other things, they just can't do everything. They have representatives, right? Then you have 6% of your population at the other end of the spectrum that are your cave people. Citizens against virtually everything. Doesn't matter what you bring up, they just don't like change, they have a hard time with all that stuff, fine. And then in the middle, you have your sheep, people that are just moving along, going through life. And this political consultant said, look, your job as leaders is to steal the ideas from the creative people and keep the cave people from poisoning the sheep, and you're gonna be good. And now, I'm trained as a planner, and I thought, I've gotta go out and, if I just hold another public meeting, if I just work with more people, eventually everybody's, no. There are people that just honestly don't want to change any ideas. They're just limited that way, which is fine, that's how they are. Conspiracy thinking, all that kind of stuff. There's no data there. So one of our counselors asked a really good question. He goes, look, I noticed that you said 6% at one end and 6% at the other end. How do I tell the difference? And the consultant said, look, it's real easy. When somebody comes to you with a problem, the first thing to do is ask them for an idea, a solution. If they don't have an idea or a solution, if it's always, I liked it the way it was 20 years ago, I don't want anything to change, that's not going to be helpful. You're changing. We're all changing. Like I said, I'm growing. I'm changing into a different Joe as we speak. That's life. You know, your city is going to be changing. You're getting 6,000 more students at the university. What does that mean for you all? So you have to move forward that way. Does that make sense? Yeah. So our thesis is always show the information. When people come in with complaints or issues, what kind of data are we going to use to analyze that? Stuff I can measure, right? So if I can measure your brain with your creative thought process in green versus your brainstem activity in blue, I could actually use science to get in your head and see how your brain operates, right? Why can't we do an economic MRI for our community? So the year that our state took away our annexation, I don't know if y'all know this, our state representative called us a cesspool of sin. Did y'all hear about that? And I was on the Downtown Association board. I've got 2 voters out in the county for every 1 voter in the city. My downtown produces $3.4 million a year in property taxes to the county, and only $1.8 million a year to the city. So rather than hate on us, send us a thank you card. You know, we'll gladly give you money for my cousins out in the county, but don't call us a cesspool. So this is a chart that I showed that year. This is my county, non-taxable. You see Mount Mitchell Park and Pisgah Park. Those are 2 forests. Forests are non-taxable, so we just grade them out. Non-taxable, doesn't pay me taxes. I'll just be crude about it. Green is low value, purple is high value. See the Biltmore Estate? The Biltmore Estate's worth $100 million. One house, $100 million. When the Cecils show up at one of our council meetings, we all genuflect and thank them for their time. They're very valuable people, awesome. But it's the biggest gas tank, right? It's a 180,000 square foot house sitting on 8,000 acres of land. That doesn't tell me the productivity. So rather than total value, here's value per acre. The map just changed. Let me show it to you in 3D. So when I presented the State of the Downtown address, I asked my chair of my county commission, I said, could y'all tell me where downtown is? And he goes, the big purple mountain. I'm like, yep. You can also see our little cousin of Black Mountain to the right. You can see its little downtown popping up too. We can also see the sprawl on the south side of town, not all that productive. So we're visualizing the economic productivity of our community so everybody can see it. It also draws in those 2 voters out in the county to realize what we're doing for them. So we're all in this together. Does that make sense? So for you all, we basically are, going forward is you're all a data set. We had to learn your tax system. South Carolina is different from North Carolina. This is a chart of your local tax production. When I say local, it's you, your city, the city and the county combined. You're in it together. You know the county commissioners. You can talk to them, right? So you're mostly gold, which means you're mostly property taxes, is how you run your communities. Dark blue is sales taxes. Light blue could be like in Ohio, they charge a local income tax. And y'all are kind of in the middle of the chart. If you go to the left, you see Maine is mostly property taxes. If you go to the right of the chart, you see Louisiana, Arkansas, Alabama, mostly sales taxes to run a city. Not a great way to run a city. Think about what happened in the recession, the last recession. Did you go out and buy a boat or a TV or a car? No. So when the recession hits, it's actually really bad for sales tax communities. But everybody chooses their own adventure and how they do their taxes, but you guys are right about there. From a tax system standpoint, in South Carolina, well, we'll start with North Carolina. Ours is simple. Everybody's a market value. We don't have a differentiation in housing the way that you all do. It's just market value for residential, commercial, same deal. You get an exemption if you're like a disabled veteran. That's about it in North Carolina. You all have different percentage assessed value rates on it. So let's just kind of walk through an example. This is for commercial. You're taxing at 6% on 300,000. You got a tax rate of 95 mils, so the tax bill would turn out to be $1,700. You get a tax credit from sales tax. I don't know if y'all know that. It's like a clawback, basically, you get. So the tax bill is going to be $1,300 for commercial on $300,000 of value. For residential non-exemption, you're also $1,300. So for the renter, they're paying the same as a sports bar downtown from a valuation standpoint. When you look at a homeowner in South Carolina, you can see how the tax bill drops to $700. You've got a different tax rate because of you're an owner occupied. So basically, here's how it stacks up: commercial and residential, and then you see the haircut. Everybody gets a $389 haircut from your sales tax give back to your property. So your tax bill is basically the $1,300 for a renter, and homeowner gets $700. So this is how your cash flow operates. So when a resident shows up and talks with you all, and if there's a complaint about a renter, the renter is actually paying almost double the owner occupied. So it's, again, that's productive for you. So this is your tax bill, the way that it breaks down. And again, we're graphics people, so we like to show this stuff graphically. Your county is getting about 15 cents while you're getting 26 cents. There's counties in Florida that they get more than the sales tax or the property tax of the city, which is kind of wild. This is, I think, more fair because does the county come into downtown and help with Main Street at all? So, and then the schools get the majority of your dollar. So for the citizens that come in and complain that you're taking all of their money, you're really not. You're taking 26 cents out of every dollar, so a little bit over a quarter of their property tax bill. Does that make sense? Your budget, again, we're graphics people. On the left is your money and what comes in and what sources it comes in from. You're bringing in $36 million a year. You're spending $36 million a year, and that's how you spend it on the left. This is the stuff that Jonathan put on a map. What's geospecific, right? So you control that through zoning, and also it matters where things are financially. This is the same information, different kind of style chart. This is called a Sankey chart. So these are the revenue sources. Here's where it flows into, and here's where it flows out to. Some people like the pie chart. Some people like a Sankey chart. We're just trying to make it easy to see. But this is for your citizens. This is kind of how y'all operate, is a picture. So this is what we're putting on a map. Okay. Is this all too nerdy for a work session? Are we good? Okay. Here's your county overall tax, total tax value. So you can see the big parcels on the north, super valuable, the reserve at Lake Huey, but it's a huge parcel of land. So rather than total value, here's value per acre. You see the heat shift, but here is in 3D. So you can see your downtown popping up off the map there. There's some lakefront properties that are super valuable, but it's all at the crust of the lake. And I'll get into this later. The property across the street, it drops down in value. So of course, lakefront property has more value to it. So, and then you can see easily out there. So here's an example of one of the lakefront properties that are out there. But again, if we just back up out of view, you're not gonna see that much value across the street. Does that make sense? This is your city, and so downtown's doing well. Patrick Square is kind of crushing it from a productivity standpoint. So that's what you're doing there. It's kind of interesting. You guys kind of are like a pincher around Clemson, which is kind of unique. Usually that is part of your community, but you kind of go completely around it. It's just how you're set up. So as county taxpayers, y'all sit on about 7% of the footprint of the county. That top pie chart is your physical footprint. The bottom pie chart is your financial footprint, right? So you're taking up 7% of the land, you're producing 19% of the county's property taxes. So as a ratio of productivity from physical footprint to financial footprint is a 1 to 10 ratio of productivity. Does that make sense? You're 10 times more potent financially than you are physically. Does that make sense? Now, in the city, your downtown is about 7% of the property taxes, only 1% of the area. So your downtown is about 4.5 times greater than its footprint financially to the city's budget. But let's not forget that the downtown is also a piece of the county, right? So it's producing county property taxes. It barely shows up as a footprint. I don't know what 0.1% is, and it's only a tenth of a percent in financials, but that's a 1 to 44 ratio of productivity. What the lesson here is, what's good for downtown is really potent for the city, but it's incredible for the county. That little teeny sliver of land is producing a tremendous amount, a high potency of county taxes. Also for the school system, how many kids are in the downtown? 0. So you're getting all of that property tax to the schools out of that. So again, share this stuff with your county commissioners and your school board, or let them realize that the effort that you're going through to fix the community and work on the community is paying off in spades for them, and they should collaborate somehow. So this is all spatial analysis. This joke only works for some people, but this is spatial analysis and how your physical footprint affects you financially. Taxable, non-taxable, countywide, you're about 24% non-taxable. There's no magic number here in Asheville or Buncombe County. I think we're like 30% non-taxable, but we have the Blue Ridge Parkway and huge federal parks. In your city, you're about 8% non-taxable, but just for fun, we just kind of threw the university in there. If the university, part of the university, it actually is bigger than this, if the university that was kind of just hugging the city was part of your community, you'd be about almost 50-50 in taxable, non-taxable. The highest one that we've seen is Chapel Hill, is about 60% non-taxable, which is kind of insane. Chapel Hill is a huge footprint, the university is a huge footprint. And there's a blessing and a curse there. Non-taxable doesn't necessarily mean that it's not productive, because all of those students spend money in your community, pay taxes in your community, they're renters. You know, there's a lot of jobs that come out of that, so it's who you are. You're a college town. Your downtown is about 4% non-taxable. Now you can see that City Hall is kind of just off the edge there. It's not part of the downtown technically. And so let's go through the actual ingredients of your community. Everybody's got a Walmart, so we're gonna grab a Walmart. Just to get an idea of per acre yield, the Walmart here is worth $22 million. It's on 21 acres, so its value per acre is $1 million. If you took that Walmart and said, we want you to have more parking, if we're gonna require you to have more parking in your community, on your parcel, it actually brings the value down. So you can see as the parcel gets bigger with more parking, the value goes down. More acreage, the building didn't change, right? However, if you get rid of the parking requirement and say, let's just have whatever parking you need, and they just do a small parking lot, that brings up the value. So just understand how policy affects productivity and how I develop land affects the tax flow for your community. So that's the basics. Everybody's got a Walmart. Yours is averaging about $800,000. We're gonna go ahead and keep that on the bottom. It's sort of like an index and go forward. So here's residential. Residential comes in basically, a mix of typologies. In planner world, there's the typical low density stuff. And then there's this stuff called missing middle, which is triplexes, duplexes, townhouses, row houses. It's sort of a mix in the middle. And then you have the higher density apartment buildings, 4 over 1s, things like that. You kind of have all of the typologies. But here's out countywide, single family detached is pulling about $200,000 an acre of value or productivity. So this is a quarter of the productivity of a Walmart. When you get into your missing middle stuff, you're up 2 million, 4 million, 5 million. That weird little row house in Easley, like if you drove through downtown Easley, you might miss it, but that's somebody's house right there. It's 14 feet wide, and it's $14 million an acre of productivity. Again, it's like, don't let your biases get in the way, let the data show you what's happening, and that's somebody's choice of house. Awesome, super productive. Here's some multifamily, 1.4 million, 2 million, 14 million for Austin Woods over in Easley. Now remember, single family detached is $200,000 an acre. So when folks say that like multifamily doesn't produce for your community, that's not true according to the numbers, right? And then here's an example of what change can happen. This is what it used to be, is a dead strip mall, and it changed to this. So this is 5.8 million an acre. I'm gonna take a pause right here. I'm trained as an architect. I don't think it's the most spectacularly beautiful building. I'm just gonna go ahead and admit that. Architecturally, I think we really do need to have an honest conversation about architecture, because people end up hating density when they really hate the aesthetics of something. And aesthetics can be changed. You can talk it through about proportion and aesthetics and quality. So have that conversation. You have an architecture school right here. But to come out and say that that building's bad because you don't like the aesthetics, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. This is a highly productive property for you. And it's very efficient for the students. They don't need a yard. They can get to school in a higher density capacity. But that's super potent for you all. So single family detached countywide is averaging about 200,000. Missing middle is about 900,000. Multifamily is about 2 million. Or what is that, 10 times the potency of single family detached. That's countywide. When you get in the city of Clemson, it bumps up for everything. But you still see the significant jump in multifamily. I know I'm flying through a lot of charts, and we're giving this to you as a PDF. So this is more just showing our homework, if you will. From that's residential, let's go to commercial. Now we go back down to 1.7 million for the shopping center at Easley. Your Planet Fitness is about $2 million. There's just some random samples of properties around the county. The reason why we're doing county is you're all in this together, and hopefully this level of communication, you can share this with your county commissioners to increase their literacy on this as well. And then you get into your commercial buildings that are in more of a Main Street setting, 2.6 million to 15 million on the lower right. I love the little 387 College right there, that little
Judge Keller's.
tiny little building.
Judge Keller's.
Okay, Judge Keller's?
I'm pretty sure that's Judge.
No?
That's Steamers. That's
Is that Steamers?
Steamers and Tiger Property.
Oh, that's at the split.
Yeah.
Okay.
12.5 million an acre for that little thing. Go give them a big hug. That's like incredibly impressive. So your big box is about $300,000 an acre. Your medium scale stuff, this is again countywide, 1.3 million. Your Main Street's 2.4. When you get into Clemson, it jumps up, particularly for the Main Street stuff, at 5 million an acre. And again, these aren't huge buildings. These are little 1-story, 2-story buildings. It's not a lot, but they're really super potent. Which brings in the mixed use. The stuff that we used to build is part of community design for hundreds of years. These are some of the Main Street stuff from smaller scale to bigger scale, where there's commercial on the ground floor and some other use above. you see how that value increases potency from 2 million to 24 million on the lower right. And then this is your most potent building in your entire county right there at 51 million an acre for the Shepherd Hotel. So thank you, Dabo. Super awesome. He's an investor in that property. So here's the roll-up countywide for all of the uses, and then inside the city of Clemson. So y'all are doing some good stuff from a potency standpoint. You're capturing the growth from the university. So back to the old buildings, and I found this little postcard of Easley, and there's like people with horse technology in this picture that built a form of urbanism. They didn't need to, they had plenty of space, but they did it because it was efficient. It was smart from a financial standpoint for the cost of the community and being efficient. And here it is 100 years later, still at 5 to 7 million an acre. This wasn't built for a 15 or 20-year window. We didn't do that in our communities when we lived here. But now we have financial means that are global or national, and they're a business, and again, not to fault them, they're a business in Arkansas, their CPA is in New York City, their attorneys are in Washington, D.C., and they're running a global corporation. But this is your community. How long do you want to have as a perspective? Is it okay to do a 15-year investment? Sure. But what do you get out of it, and what's the exchange? So think about these old buildings. Think about how you're going to be leaving a legacy for your kids and your grandkids, and how you can leave more potency. So back to the little buildings. This is 367 College. That's its footprint right there. This is your Walmart footprint at the same scale. So how many of those things on the left does it take to equal the $27 million thing on the right? So we did the math on it. So it's about 39 of those buildings, and that's the footprint to equal the same financial value of that big footprint there. So back to your farm. You're managing an area. Every square inch of that dirt is sacred. You only make one planet. How's the productivity work on that? Just make sure you understand if I'm a developer and bring in something, how am I exhausting your resource? How does it weigh out for you? And I would recommend the value per acre metric to kind of understand how to map things apples to apples. This is just a roll-up of all the different typologies, residential across the top, commercial, mixed use. And again, this is just a roll-up of everything that you've just seen in this section. And as you get into the mixed uses, you can see how they start to escalate. And you're stacking stories, you're stacking your dollar bills, but those mix of uses also add potency too. So here they are in your community and where those things kind of pop up. Again, just to recap, and this is out there at Patrick Square. And you see the same lesson: stacked buildings, mixed uses, more potency, more density, more potency. So it's awesome that you have that example in your community. So understand the data, measure what's going on, manage how to grow for success in your community. And I'm going to go through a little, I always show this example because this is important, of an important form of literacy. So this is a map of Cheyenne where we turned all of the buildings off. So there's no buildings here. And if you look at, let's see here. If you look under this label right here, see how everybody in this neighborhood is blue? So everybody's dirt is the same value, right? That seems fair. But look what's going on over here. Why is the dirt in this neighborhood so all over the place? But when I was presenting in Cheyenne, I said, hey, what's going on here? Where this dirt is blue, it's $15,000 an acre. And when you cross the street, it turns to $40,000 an acre. How does land in the same zoning category double in value? And the tax assessor was sitting in the front row, and she raised her hand and just yelled out, she goes, "You don't understand." And I'm like, what am I missing? And she goes, well, that big parcel under the mall is a big parcel. The more land that you have, the lower the value. It has less utility to more people. The mayor started laughing. I'm like, really? I get more of your limited commodity and it's cheaper? And she goes, yeah, that's our standard. And I said, I've got 3 miles around that property of infrastructure. How much value are you putting into that dirt for the 3 miles of infrastructure? Because the fellow across the street's only got 200 feet. She goes, we don't count infrastructure as part of the valuation. So I get more of your land, I get more of your infrastructure, and you give me a cheaper tax bill. She goes, yeah, that's our standard. So I went to the assessors conference. That's why I went there, was to show them this, because their magazine is called Fair and Equitable. And I asked them, how is this fair and how is it equitable? To their credit, they're like, it's not. I'm like, where did this standard come from? Did Moses deliver this to you? Like, where did it come from? They're like, we don't know. You need to talk to Larry. I'm not making this up. So I tracked Larry down. Here he is. And I asked Larry, I'm like, where did the standard come from? He's like, I don't know. Now that you point that out, we probably need to change it. I've worked in government for 5 years. I was a zoning administrator. I never once talked to the assessor. I didn't know how this thing works. But you have the same problem in your community. This is your just dirt. Now you can tell where your downtown is, but should it be like this all over the place? It should be more like a mound, right? But when you zoom into the model, you can see the little freckles along your major transportation corridors. The little parcels are more potent than the big parcels behind them. Why? Same infrastructure, same zoning. When you zoom into a neighborhood, it's like, okay, you can see the lakefront property is all the same, but why is it so different? And yes, once you cross the street, it drops and you get this huge haircut. But those two parcels side by side across the street are 300,000 versus 100,000 for the dirt, side by side. Why? And it's because they're operating a computer model. They're never looking at the map this way to see the fairness of this. So this is just another form of literacy, just understand it. And then here's another example down here. So that property, literally right next door to the one next to it, you see it's half the value for the dirt per acre. So just be aware of this. Talk to the county. And also this is a lesson that we saw in Gainesville. Sorry to bring the SEC in here. But there's the university. Oh, by the way, this is kind of fun. This is the one fraternity that was kicked off campus right there. In the middle of the campus. We recommended that they kick more fraternities off campus. But the downtown is actually over here. So here's the downtown, here's the university, and you can see what they've been doing is they're basically figuring out, we can get the kids to live off campus between the downtown and the university and get all of that taxable value. The students don't care. They're going between downtown and the university, and they just need housing. So they've been concentrating all of that production in their community. It's almost like the value, the non-taxable value of the university doesn't disappear. It just pushes that value into your community if you capitalize on it, right? And that's what they did in Gainesville. It was kind of awesome. You can see it in that model. Does that make sense? And it wasn't easy. People complained about the students there too. I don't know why. It's like this is, no offense to any students in here, or former students, they don't have bottoms in their pockets. The money just flows out in the streets. This is what students do. They buy pizza. They buy t-shirts. They're commerce. Anybody that's a parent of a college-age student knows that. All that money disappears. And that makes your community go, which is good. It makes Gainesville go. So just be aware of the sticker gun, who's got it, have a conversation with the assessor about it, and just be ready for some weirdness. Okay, so that's your valuations. Now let's get into how you use your land. You have about 45% of your city is single family. You've got a bunch of other categories, and then you've got your missing middle stuff, your multifamily, your exempt and commercial, and your industrial and mixed Main Street stuff. That's physically, and this is a pie chart of the money in your system. So let's turn your pie chart into a square so that they match. So your city single family is taking up 45% of your land. It's producing 54% of your property taxes. Does that make sense? What's not noticeable here is look at your Main Street stuff. It only takes up 1% of your land, yet it's producing 7% of your money. So to think about that ratio of net positive productivity, let's kind of just look at the residential stuff. So it's about a 1.2 times increase to go from your physical footprint to your financial footprint for single family. That seems good, right? Missing middle is 1.7, multifamily is double single family. You got that? Now, remember, you have tax exemptions. So once you drop in the tax exemptions, more of those tax exemptions happen in single-family product than any other product. So you actually go backward. You're taking up 45% of your area, but you're producing a lot less in value. So you're like a 70% return. You're losing 30% because of those exemptions. And again, it's, as a taxpayer, it feels good to vote for, I want a tax exemption, I want to have that, but there's a financial ramification of that. And this is just what you're dealing with. So this, again, more for literacy for your community to understand the state created that policy, but it affects you all on your cash flow. You still have to service all of those properties. Does that make sense? So, again, a joke. Sometimes we ask for things that end up hurting ourselves. There's a really good book about the psychology of us humans making bad decisions. It's called Predictably Irrational, and there's a science behind it. We have short-term thinking as a society. Okay, property tax. Let's get into sales tax. I love this map, particularly because look at my state. What I'm about to show you is illegal in the state of North Carolina, and I'm going to show this map until my state legislature changes their damn policy. But we're able to get your sales taxes. This is your sales tax production. And we also have in this your internet sales and Amazon sales that happen at all the houses, but that's spread across more properties, so it doesn't really pop up that much. But here's what does pop up, and then zooming out so we can drop the property taxes on it, boom. So this shows you as your capital stack where you're getting your revenues and how that's popping up. Again, density in commerce in a small proximity of space is highly productive. Does that make sense? Just comparing your Planet Fitness versus Bixby. This is the land consumed of each, so it's 2 times the footprint on the left. You're getting a lot more sales tax revenue out of the right, and a lot more property taxes out of the right. If you're just stacking things up per acre, side by side, so you can see what you get. Does that make sense? Or scaling up your big box stuff, Patrick Square versus downtown Clemson. Big box center, 50 acres, super big area. A lot of sales taxes, double the sales taxes downtown, but remember downtown's only 6 acres versus 50 acres. So the productivity from a sales tax standpoint, your downtown's crushing it. Patrick Square's not doing so bad. It's doing a little bit better than the big box center. And as you know, Patrick Square is adding more stuff every year. So it's just gonna keep on getting more potent as they get more stuff going on over there. So those are the numbers there. How you're growing, back to the university, we know that you're getting 6,000 more people. This is your full campus that's in the county and all the parcels. And this was kind of interesting, charting the school growth against your city growth. They're expected to add 6,000 more people in the next 15 years or 10 years. But you see what happened here. In the mid-1970s, you had this kind of crossing point where the school got bigger than the town kind of thing. So that's kind of an important inflection point where they eclipsed you. So just taking in that first years, or the first 15 years of growth there, that's when they added 6,000 people. So we could look back to that and think about where you're going to be growing in the future, right? What did they do to you in that 6,000 window? So let's kind of go to that. Here's the city, here's the university, and here's the whole rest of the county and how it grew. So if we go back and do a measurement of what happened in that window from 1970 to 2000, they added 10,000 people, you added 5,000 people. So for every student they added, you added half a person in your community. Does that make sense? The student, well actually you shouldn't say the student because it's the students, it's the professors, it's the whole system adds people here too. But look what happened out in the county. 52,000 people went out there. It's like, that's mind-blowing to me. So if this is where you are, 5,000 people back then, and we go forward and say, okay, we're gonna add some more students out there. What did you do in this last window? You basically added, like from the 2000 to today, you grew Clemson from 2000 1.5 times. Does that make sense? You created 1.5 more Clemsons from that Clemson in 2000. So you follow me? Out in the county, they created 2.5 Clemsons out there. one of the things to have a conversation out there, that white line is all the other cities and towns in the county, so Easley and all the other place Pickens. That's unincorporated county. And Jonathan and I drove around outside, went out 6 Mile and kind of just drove around, and you could see it happening. You're experiencing that. Yet everybody talks about the growth in this community. Meanwhile, out there are 2.5 Clemsons happening that no one's talking about. Where's the little Main Street? Where's the place to get a coffee? You've got all the people out there. It's just disaggregated all over the landscape. And that affects your quality of life here too. So again, just think about broadening the conversation about you're all in it together. And the county needs to be responsible for that growth out there. It's not just about y'all. So as you add one Clemson student, you're adding half a resident and 4 people are going out in the county. Is that good for you all to have 4 people out there? Can you increase the community population and decrease that sprawl out there of all the other people? Or can you start to get places out there and not just a disaggregated community where it's like dangerous to ride a bicycle to the campus? So again, this is a broader conversation that needs to happen, but this is, whether you like it or not, the school's gonna grow. So how do you lean in and get the best community design out of it? So here's 350 students. There they are in that building. That's 350 beds. If they were out in single-family housing, out here, how much space would it take if you didn't have that building? So again, putting aside the architecture and just talking about the mass of it, on the left is 6,000 beds out there, 6,000 beds in that building. This is the land consumed. You could consume 900 acres or you can consume 100 acres. Does that make sense? Based on the footprint. This is the property tax revenue. So you're gonna get more property tax revenue out of all of those single family houses. But again, you're consuming 9 times about 8 times the acreage. So the per acre yield is this. So you can actually get more efficient, more tax productive by concentrating that student population. It's not gonna be for everybody, but there are folks where that would work in the growth. So 6,000 beds, this is the footprint of them in that housing typology up there, and that's the footprint in the typology on the right. How much land do you want to use in your city and in your county with this growth that's coming to you? Does that make sense? So these 6 properties right here, this is their property tax, total property tax revenue to your community and how they produce. So that's $1.7 million of property taxes just out of 6 buildings, which is amazing. These are the number of beds that each of them have. So we ran the math on that too. And their house is a significant population in your community. So that's 3,000 students, $1.7 million those students are producing for your community. So here's, if you add 3,000 beds, you're gonna be getting 1.7 million in property taxes, and that pays for basically 35 firefighters. If you add another 6,000, that's gonna be 3.4 million or 70 firefighters. You can actually cultivate more production for your community with student population. Conversely, if they go to the campus, you get nothing. So that's non-taxable, it's not part of your community. So the students will be housed one way or another. Does that make sense? So these are your choices, option A or option B. Just to go through some examples, here's on the left is the current 21 units. And just for a thought experiment, we dropped that building on the upper right to show how it would bump up in the tax production or the total value. So it goes from a $6 million property to a $14 million property by changing the building typology. This is another thought experiment. On the left is the current multifamily. If you put this thing in that same site, you'll get 44 million versus 14 million in value. Right adjacent to the campus. This is another property. On the left, it's current view. If you drop this building out there, it goes from 6.7 million of total value to 99 million by changing the building typology. We're just doing this as kind of like rubber stamping some thought experiments down and kind of show what could happen. So think about the ingredients that you're going to make your cake with in the future. How do you mix the different typologies? You've got plenty of examples here. And think about what you can do to improve the connectivity in your community and the growth. So coordinating, I just did this as I couldn't resist your high school, by the way. This is how big your high school is.
Daniel,
Yeah.
it's grown since I was there.
Well, here's the thing. We have this tool on our website. It's free. Feel free to use it. You can put, that's your high school. On the right is your campus. Same scale. So that's the scale of your high school. Will go from the football stadium all the way into the heart of the campus. I mean, it's kind of mind-blowing how big that school is. And again, think of these choices. How much land are you going to consume? Does the school really need to be that big? I don't know, but it's huge. This is the high school at the same scale as downtown Greenville. It goes from the Reedy Creek Bridge all the way up Main Street. It's a tremendous amount of real estate. That's just, I'm not judging the high school. It's just I'm judging its design and how it sits in your community. Can you design that in a way that more kids could walk or take their bikes to the school? That means the parking lot gets smaller. It's just choices, right? Anyway, I was just having fun. We're nerds. We like to do this kind of stuff. So that was all the revenue. I'm just going to drop this in here and close. This is Eugene, Oregon. So I've shown you a lot of revenue side. Eugene, you can see where its downtown is. Right to the right of downtown is the University of Oregon campus. Most of the community hugs around the campus. That's the revenue. So one of the things that we did is looked at the cost. So this is when they built all of their roads from the early 1900s, and they're sitting out here when we did the model in 2019, and they were bragging about not building roads. They're like, we've stopped, we've got a growth boundary, we're not taking any more roads. I'm like, hold on a second. When I, as a developer, build a road and give it to you, you have a liability. You have something that you have to build and rebuild forever. So there were roads that were built in 1979 that you're rebuilding right now. So don't tell me you're not paying for stuff. You're paying for those roads. So this is your first rebuild cycle of all your roads. You've got some roads that are so old they were built in 1939. They got rebuilt in 1979. So you're on a second rebuild of some roads. So this is your second rebuild cycle, and you're about to walk into a third rebuild. When I give you roads, they're your liability forever. It's not an asset. So just be honest about that. That is expensive. Let your citizens know that a road is expensive. Let them know the cost. So that road, that promise, this is another joke, it's forever, right? So this is their cost. This is taking the whole city and floating it in a lake. So this is this neighborhood and what it pays in taxes. This is what it costs the community for that neighborhood to be there. So you can see the sunk cost of the pipe, the lift stations, the road, and you see the taxes. You net one against the other. This is the net position. So what's net positive is in the black, and what's net negative is in the red. And you can see how much of the city is in the red. If you lift this thing up like you're looking for a salamander under a rock, this is the spread of subsidy across the model. So like, just be honest about your cash flow position and that you're expensive. Cities are expensive. This is a $34 billion corporation. So definitely in and around the downtown, find those little red freckles and fix them. That's called infill. That's harder. But out here, you see this thing called Crescent Village? That's a little new urbanist community similar to what you have. If you just did 4 more of those out here, just balance out your development pattern a little bit. Just find other places to do surgery. So think of this. Our governments are set up a certain way, like an old rotary telephone. We're in a new world now. I've just shown you GIS technology. You all have this software. Use it. Understand that we have the ability to kind of see our city a little differently and use new technologies. So this whole school that we do here of how we do this stuff, I call it geoaccounting, right? It's just accounting on a map. What you're looking at is bar charts on a map. That's all. It's nothing complicated. And when you talk to your accountant, like from my perspective, this is your community, right? We're just going to give you information. Like your accountant doesn't care if you buy a boat, right? Your accountant cares if you can afford a boat. So just do the math on that. So from here going forward, know your stats. Y'all, you're a $3.4 billion corporation. So as a board of directors, y'all are managing a $3.4 billion corporation from a cash flow standpoint. Does that make sense? That's kind of awesome. By the way, you can sell the city and go out and buy the university if you want. They're worth $700 million, the football team. So you can buy maybe almost 5 football teams. It's nice in the NIL area. We can figure out how much the football program costs. It's kind of wild. Anyway, I can tell you that you know, everybody on the football team knows his towel bill. Like, you know these costs. I know that the cups in our nightclub cost 5 cents a pop. You have to have a certain literacy to understand what you talk about, the cost of a police officer, the cost of a car, the cost of the road. Let your citizens understand what you're juggling. It's facts, it's data. You want to recognize how assessment practices can affect and impact your community. Have a conversation with your assessor about this stuff. You know, what's the fairness of this in your community? Look at different neighborhoods and see the productivity and understand the biases that are baked into the model. Grow and build your purple mountains. Y'all have some good examples of what's going on in your community. Just do more of that, or understand how to do more of that, and talk with your county as well about it, because you have these great examples. Don't be afraid of small buildings. Kind of amazing. Find these little cracks and crevices in your community to stick a small building in it, because they grow. Leverage your assets. This campus is an amazing opportunity for your community. It's going to grow. There's going to be growing pains that come with it. Lean in. Get a great community out of it. And it's going to happen one way that you like it or not. So look back at what are some mistakes that were made and just don't repeat them. And then, you know, just put it on a map. Your next step is doing the costs, getting people to see this stuff. I do a lot of this stuff all over the country. I do a lot of work with Strong Towns. I recommend his books on this stuff. He covers and writes about a lot of this stuff. Chuck Marone and Strong Towns. That's what actually we run into each other at these kinds of conferences. And thanks for letting me do some math.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Not very much. There's a lot of good stuff to think about.
If you all have any questions, you feel free to ask while he's up there.
You gave us a lot of good information to think about.
It's a bit of a flood, I'm sorry, but
No, it's,
yeah.
I mean,
So just to make sure, afterwards we'll get a PDF of this, and then,
You should
Not
have.
yet, but it's a big file, so
Yeah.
it's coming. It's in the air.
talk about ways to share this information throughout the
Yeah, the
community.
problem with
Okay.
putting it out just as a PDF there without the verbalization is still gonna be difficult for some people to kind of put it all together. That's the
Right.
only
Well,
thing.
that's what I'm saying, we'll
Yeah.
take parts of it and then
Yeah.
talk about how we can
I
It's
got you.
recorded too, right?
Yeah.
You want
Yeah,
it?
we have
we do have it recorded.
Right, yeah, 'cause this is a very good presentation.
I do have a weird question. Why is Asheville not able to annex? Why is it just Asheville? I mean, are y'all not living right? I mean, do they hate you in North Carolina? What is, I mean, you said you were the only one, so I mean, what are you doing?
Okay,
I like this.
I'll try to make this short. In 2010, our state legislature flipped and
Okay.
went from Democrat to Republican. And we hadn't been Republican since the Civil War. So there's a lot of time there to have a power shift. And one of the things that our state legislature did, it was sort of like hands off, anything that you want in your community, we're going to endorse. And we had one state representative, Tim Moffitt, who his neighborhood almost got annexed by Asheville. So he remembered that. And when-
Fought against it evidently.
yeah.
Okay.
And so he wanted to make a rule that Asheville won't have the ability to annex. And so the state was like, great, what else do you want, Tim? And he said, how about we take their water system? I want their water system. So they took our water system away.
One person.
Yeah. After they passed a law saying no eminent domain in North Carolina. I was on a board with this guy. We're doing a presentation, and I turned to him and I said, you said no eminent domain, you better pay us for our water system. That's a $4 billion asset. You can't just take it from us. They took our airport away, and then they threatened to liquidate our charter because we're a creature of the state. The city, in defense of the city, they actually sued the state to get the water system back, and they succeeded. And they didn't bother with anything else. So we're just basically the outlier. It was kind of a basket case time for North Carolina in the year 2010. It was kind of insane. I like going to other states and they're like, you don't understand how crazy my state is. I'm like, try me.
Okay, well, thank you for
Yeah,
that.
that's the weakness.
Okay.
It was political and it was unfortunate
I'm
politics.
surprised it hasn't changed back. It's been 15, 16 years.
The city's just exhausted. That was a very exhausting period. I mean, think of lawsuits that you all get into. It's not fun. The water system-
Understood. Understood.
Just don't stir up the hornet's nest. We'll deal with it. As a citizen, honestly, I think it's actually better for us to have some discipline. That, okay, now that we have a limited container, Let's think about that. Oftentimes, cities do annexation to fight budget problems, and it becomes like tantamount to fighting obesity by buying bigger clothes. You know, you've got a budget problem, you have bad land use patterns, and you annex more land, get an immediate tax injection, but you've just taken down more costs. Does that make sense? So having limited land is actually a good discipline for us. So, if that makes sense.
Not a,
My only question, because I appreciate the presentation, so thank you for that. When you said we're all in it together, like the county school boards, and then the county makes up all different cities, other municipalities. And a lot of what we see are people who do live in other places, but they also work here at the university as well. But there are other corporations or buildings or companies that are being located here, relocated here. So that's why you see probably that growth in the county. So in terms of having those discussions, because the cities also see their growth happening, so there's that silo.
Yeah.
How do you know, because I know you said we're all in this together and we can show them the data, but there's also, it's all about, our city too. So we got to make sure we're thinking about our own city versus all that together. So would that be just the conversation with the county, or the county and the other municipalities?
If you have regional, somebody's living in Easley but coming into Clemson Fair,
That's quite.
that person's got to commute through your town. They're driving through your living room, if you will, to get to their job.
Correct.
And they might get upset if you're doing traffic calming. And it's like, I understand that it's going to slow your commute down, but you're not paying taxes here, So your businesses where you work at, or if you're the campus that's not paying, you're getting spin-off effect from the campus, however. But you have to maintain your community, and they have to be conscious of the fact that their desires may impact your community. And oftentimes what I find with people is they just don't know that, they don't think that through. They're only thinking about their commute. So a lot of what the show is designed to do is more of a broader literacy. And understanding that you are all in it together. Start there. There's going to be the people that just don't care because they're selfish. It's about my commute, and you should pay for it. Well, that's not fair, But the majority of the audience isn't aware that that's what you're dealing with. Does that make sense? We're dealing with that with Asheville right now. They're widening the highway, and everybody in Asheville's like, you're wasting all of our real estate. We're going from a 4-lane wide highway to an 8-lane highway, which is dumb, and it's just going to cause more people to go out into the farms and sprawl, which is why most of us live there, is we don't want to see that sprawl. So we're in that tension, every community I go to. But the more you can have that conversation, it does some silo busting.
Well, thank you very much again. We appreciate you
thank you.
coming in and sharing the information. I think we're good. Yep. Okay. Cool. All right, well, we'll close out this work session. I know it's a little after 6:30. Do we need to take a break? Can I get a consensus?
Let's take it.
Yeah, all right, we're gonna take a 2 to 3 minute, all right, we'll reconvene at 6:45, so we'll take a little less, about 7 or 8 minutes. Sure? Okay. All right. Welcome back for the ones that have been here. We had our work session earlier. It is April 6, 2026. It is 6:45. We'll start our regular city council meeting. Like I said earlier, I hope everybody had a wonderful Easter weekend. Hope you enjoyed the time with the family. We normally do not mention if a council member's out, but we have a council member that will be out for a while, but it's great news. She had her baby, which is fabulous news. Congratulations to the Scotts. So you will not see Lillian for a while, so just FYI, but if you get a chance, please reach out to her and congratulate her and Adam on their new arrival. So,
Mother and baby are both doing great.
well said. All right, well, we'll start it off with the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. Councilmember Smith.
Good evening, everyone. You're welcome to join me in prayer. Let us pray. Thank you for allowing us to be here in person today as we conduct the business of the city. I pray that we will be considerate of all thoughts this evening and conduct ourselves in such a respectful and professional manner. I pray that any decisions we make tonight will be for the best interest of our community and will be beneficial to all concerned. It is important that we remember those who have experienced loss, trauma, or good celebrations. It's important that we know whose we are and that God's grace and mercy will continue to carry us through. Watch over each and every one of us tonight and when we leave this place. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. You may be seated. So, got a couple proclamations here. I don't think anyone's here representing. I'm looking, okay, no. All right, I'll just make sure we read these proclamations. First is for April, it's the Fair Housing Month proclamation, whereas the Fair Housing Act enacted in April 11, 1968, into federal law, the goal of eliminating racial segregation and ending housing discrimination in the United States, whereas the Fair Housing Act prohibits discrimination in housing based on race, color, religion, sex, national origin, disability, and commits recipients of federal funding to further fair housing in their communities, whereas the city of Clemson is committed to the mission and intent of Congress to provide fair and equal housing opportunities for all, whereas our social fabric, the economy, health, and environment are strengthened in diverse, inclusive communities, whereas more than 50 years after this passage of the Fair Housing Act, discrimination persists, and many communities remain segregated, whereas acts of housing discrimination, barriers to equal housing opportunity, are part of the common sense of decency and fairness. Now, therefore, I, as mayor of the city of Clemson, do hereby proclaim April 2026 as Fair Housing Month in Clemson as an inclusive community committed to fair housing and to promoting appropriate activities by private and public entities to provide and advocate for equal housing opportunities for all residents and prospective residents of the city of Clemson. In witness whereof, I hereunto set my hand and have caused the great seal of the city to be affixed this 6th day of April 2026. We also are fortunate to have on April 12th through 18th, we won't have a city council meeting until right after that, is National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week, whereas emergencies can occur at any time that require police, fire, or emergency medical services, whereas when an emergency occurs, the prompt response of police officers, firefighters, and paramedics is critical to the protection of life and preservation of property, whereas the safety of our police officers and firefighters is dependent upon the quality and accuracy information obtained from citizens who telephone the City of Clemson Emergency Communications Center, whereas public safety telecommunicators are the first, I'll emphasize, are the first and most critical contact our citizens have with emergency services, whereas public safety telecommunicators are the single most vital link for our police officers and firefighters by monitoring their activities on radio, providing them potentially life-saving information, and ensuring their safety. Whereas public safety telecommunicators of the Clemson Police Department have contributed substantially to the apprehension of criminals, suppression of fires, and treatment of patients. Whereas each dispatcher has exhibited compassion, I've seen it many times, understanding and professionalism during the performance of their job in the past year. Now, therefore, I, Robert Halfaker, the mayor of the city of Clemson, do hereby proclaim April 12th through April 18th as National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week in the city of Clemson in honor of those who diligence and professionalism keep our city and citizens safe. In witness whereof I hereunto set my hand and have caused the great seal of the city to be affixed this 6th day of April 2026. Chief, would you like to say something about our telecommunicators real quickly?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, council members, I'd like to remind everyone that our dispatchers are also our jailers. So they serve two roles here, which is unique to other call centers. That they're just dispatchers. I want to say just dispatchers because it's a very all-encompassing job. Not to mention, they're also the people who answer the phone for our utilities, our public works, and everything after hours. So not only are they taking emergency calls, but they're taking administrative calls as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you for adding that. Thank you. Please relay our appreciation. Do you want to just stay up here for the oath?
Yes, sir.
And I'm going to, before I do that real quickly, I always look at Jeremiah. ADA devices are at Jeremiah's desk. If you need them, from listening devices are available. Please take advantage of them if you need them. We want to make sure everybody can hear very clearly. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I'll ask Ms. Sykes to come up. So we, as an example, a live example of our telecommunicators, Ms. Sykes is a new employee of ours. She's been with us for a little while. She just completed her training and graduated her jail certifications at the academy recently. She's 28. She comes to us from Greensboro. Okay, Greensboro, making sure I got that right. In North Carolina. She has a background in communications. She studied both in the US and the UK. She went to Elon University here in the US for her undergrad and went to University of London for her master's degree. When she was done with her education, she was looking for a place to go when she was coming back and decided to come to Clemson, followed some friends here, and we were lucky enough to pick her up as an employee. She went to the academy, like I said, recently, and when she graduated, she got the top 2 honors in the class. She was a distinguished graduate, and she got the Burke Friday Award for the highest academic achiever in the graduating class. So we're very proud of her. So we're going to do her oath of office first. Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that you are duly qualified according to the Constitution of the state to exercise the duties of the office to which you've been appointed, and that you will, to the best of your ability, discharge the duties thereof and preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of this state and the United States, so help you God?
I do solemnly swear.
Okay. We're going to go over the code of ethics, which you will agree with at the end. As an officer employed as a detention correctional capacity, you swear or affirm to be a good citizen and credit to your community, state, and nation at all times. You will abstain from all questionable behavior which might bring disrepute to the agency for which you work, your family, your community, and your associates. Your lifestyle will be above reproach, and you will constantly strive to set an example of professional who performs her duties according to the laws of our country, state, and community, and the policies, procedures, written, verbal orders, and regulations of the agency to which you work. On the job, you promise to keep the institution secure so as to safeguard your community and the lives of the staff, inmates, and visitors on the premises. Work with each individual firmly and fairly without regard to rank, status, or condition. Maintain a positive demeanor when confronted with stressful situations of scorn, ridicule, danger, and chaos. Report either in writing or by word of mouth to the proper authorities those things which should be reported, and keep silent about matters which are to remain confidential according to the laws and rules of the agency and the government. Manage and supervise the inmates in an even-handed and courteous manner, refrain at all times from becoming personally involved in the lives of the inmates and their families, treat all visitors to the jail with politeness and respect, and do your utmost to ensure they observe the jail regulations. Take advantage of all education and training opportunities designed to assist you in becoming a more competent officer. Communicate with other people in or outside the jail, whether by phone, written word, or mouth, in such a way as to not reflect a negative manner upon your agency. Contribute to a jail environment which will keep the inmate involved in activities designed to improve his or her attitude and character. Support all activities of a professional nature through membership and participation that will continue to elevate the status of those who operate in the nation's jails, and do your best through word and deed to present an image to the public at large of a jail professional committed to progress for an improved and enlightened criminal justice system. You read those? Yes, sir. Okay, you're good. You're still hired. Well, I present to you Ms. Sykes. Yeah, the council members will come around.
Congratulations. We did it right on the first time.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
As you're going back to your seats, I'd be remiss to point out that I know the mayor was a recipient of a recent email from someone who was very appreciative of the calmness and instructions they received during a medical episode prior to our police officers and our firefighters getting on scene, and was very complimentary about how the person who handled the call was very professional and gave many, many accolades. So just wanted to highlight that.
Yeah,
For our
it's a
television
small
show.
world, but his son is my mentee at the, so it's,
Well,
but thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. All right, thank you again. And according to, you're more than welcome to stay, but you know, hey, your evening's open unless chief, yeah, I'll defer to the chief on that, but cool. All right, next is public session. Since Mayor Pro Tem, I will be handling it probably for a while, which is all good. 3-minute limits per speaker. I will defer up to your screens up here with some of the things that we want to make sure we refer to when we come up, but please make sure you sign in, state your name, your address, and you have 3 minutes. So the floor is yours. It's your chance to share comments.
Hello, everybody. Hello. My name is Emily Dooley. I've lived in Clemson for what feels like 1,000,000 years. And, you know, I'm going to talk about something that is the reality of what's going on around here. You know, I know that money talks and money gets things done, and that's all well and good, but we've got a mess out there, y'all, in our watershed, and I don't know specifically who's behind it. I've got some ideas about it. I'm not standing before you talking about this lightly or hysterically. It's something that I've been watching unfold for at least 2 years. I hope the municipality's not involved. That would be the worst thing I can imagine. But there is a lot of, pollution, human sewage, some of the fog wastewater, a lot of the fog wastewater, that is in just about every single body of water that I've been to, in the past, going on a year now. I don't even take my dog with me anymore because I don't want him in that mess, you know. I had these, you know, I had this big plan of having this really neat, glossy, professional packet of stuff to hand out to you guys, but I've got tens of thousands of videos and pictures that substantiate what I'm saying. It seems that there is a shadow wastewater bypass system that has been systematically implemented, and looks like it's, I don't know, I thought maybe it was temporary till the new plant expansion occurs or finishes up, but signs are pointing to it not being temporary, that it's going to continue to operate and you know, right under the noses of the state. And you know, I understand like all the red tape and the it's a lengthy, detailed process to get you know, the sewer approvals and whatnot, and for us, with our infrastructure being already in a horrendous condition decades back, really, it's even more crucial to not keep on, you know, poking that bear. You know, that money, those millions that get thrown around, those deep pockets that you know are putting pressure on y'all. You know, that's
Still, yeah, we need to wrap it up. Yes, ma'am.
okay.
Just-
All right, I'll, I don't know, I mean, I call the city, I call people
Okay.
to ask them questions and they don't call me back, so, but,
Thank you for being
I'll
here.
take
Yes,
it to
ma'am.
the, I'll
Yes,
take it
ma'am.
to the papers.
Thank you.
I'll do that.
Other comments? Yes.
Rupert 206 North Clemson. Thank you. I was talking to my neighbor on Hedgerow Lane today, and he brought up an interesting point about the fact that the fireflies seem to disappear in Clemson. And I thought, well, maybe it's because of the mosquito spraying. There may be a connection. They sprayed malathion, I think every 2 weeks. I forget the schedule exactly. But what I've noticed, they'll spray, and I'm still getting bitten by mosquitoes. And I think in the last 7 years, it went from being a lot of insects and beautiful fireflies to like 0. And I want to maybe ask the city to maybe take a look at that and think about alternating the schedule and see if it makes a difference. That's all I had to say.
Thank you. Other comments?
Robert Lee, I live at 113 Crescent Drive in Clemson. I'm going to touch on 2 things that, in one issue that probably about Asheville. What about Asheville? That's where I got the idea that Asheville has a board appointment issues that they were sued in federal court by, and they settled with a person who was being discriminated against. And that's where I got the idea that that's pretty much what I see that Clemson is doing with this equity framework and that whole business. Because I can't tell right now. There's no way for me to tell if boards are constituted by DEI appointments or by what the state law says. You just can't tell. And I'll forward that email to you. But anyway, Asheville settled, and I had an email about that before, and that's why I think I have grounds, because I applied after that thing was issued, after I had opposed it a lot. But there's no way to tell if our boards are DEI hires or not. And another issue, think about it. If I say DEI hire, do you think that's a good or a bad thing? Just in general. And if DEI is a good thing, then I didn't say if DEI was a good or bad thing, but is it a good or a bad thing? Can you tell me that also? So I probably will have to follow up with that federal lawsuit. That's what I'm thinking. I just think there's, that's my thoughts. If there's a way to go around that, I would do that, but I just think I will have to do that at this point. I don't know if there's any other receptive attitude on it. Thank you for listening.
Thanks, Robert.
Other comments? All right. If not, I will close out public session and we will go into our next item, the possible approval of minutes from March 16th of 2026. Would somebody like to make a motion?
So moved. Second.
Any comments or discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All right, thank you very much. Next, we'll go into reports discussion. Just a reminder, it's a 2-minute limit per speaker. You'll notice the first one is to receive a presentation regarding Clemson University housing from Doug Hollenbach. We found out this morning there was personal issue. Please be praying for his family that he needed to attend to. So he will not be here. He will be coming back in the future. So he was looking forward to sharing the information. So we will make sure he will be a part of the meeting in the future. Next is to discuss sponsorship applications from our Community and Economic Development Coordinator, Lindsay Newton.
Lindsay's not here.
Okay,
Her
I was
daughter
looking.
had a birthday today.
Okay,
Anna. So she's out doing birthdays.
okay,
So
understood.
I'll take over here. The end of February, we had applications for sponsorships due. And on the application, it says you have to meet at least one of these 6 criteria. And these here, almost all of them met multiple criteria that were submitted. I didn't see anything new than the usual cadre of applications. Some of them are asking for less support this year, like if you go to the Paddle Jam, they were asking for $300, but.
Hold on, Andy, hold on. Let's, Chief, sorry, do you want me, is everybody quieted down? Yeah. Okay, cool, sorry, thank you.
But I thought because they were taking a lot of people to businesses in Patrick Square and around the dockside area that we could just comp them the park fee. Because the application said they were basically wanting to offset that. And our park manager says that they take care of themselves. So that's where that came from. You'll notice Clemson Paw Partners and the Hiding Place. Those there I have endowment because later on in staff reports, I'm going to ask you to schedule a work session so that we can have Alex Sloan come back and go over the framework for a nonprofit support program where we will fund and create our own eligibility requirements so that these groups would be eligible. And that should be up and running right after the first of the fiscal year. So we're not saying this is off in the distance, but those are the types of things they'll be handling for us. And the Hiding Place is domestic violence. These are operational types of requests. Go to the, can you go back a slide? There's a go again. Miss America's not here because they didn't send in an application. What I'd like to do, I think they confused showing up the other night as kind of being that. So we want to get back in touch with them and have them submit one, and I can include that in before you take action, just so it can be considered, because I really think there was a misunderstanding there with them. And I don't want to hold that against them. Another one here I don't see on there is the Red Hill. Well, there it is. Red Hill. Okay. I had originally told you 2,500 in a recommendation, and that is because that's what they've been getting in previous years. But they're asking us to fund the bands. So what I'm suggesting is 6,000, because that's more in line with what you pay for bands when you do events just like this. 2-day event this year, where it used to be one. Free and open to the public. You saw Reads Across America, they just recently made their presentation. Pretty much in line.
Can I ask a quick question? The Miss Clemson pageant, or Miss America, as Alicia said, how many years has that been, have we been doing a sponsorship?
I don't know how many years it's been. I know.
But it's been a long, I mean, you think it's a big
I'd say 6 or
boo-boo.
7, 6 or
Okay, so
7
it's
years.
been, they've been doing it for
longer
long.
than
It was, we've been
It's
on
been longer
7
than that.
years, and it's been going on.
Okay, so it's
Even
been,
before
it's
that.
just a big boo-boo that they didn't do it this year,
Before that,
is what you're saying.
I'm just saying, I think they were confused when they presented, so we're gonna go back and just make sure.
With that many years, that sounds true, doesn't it?
And how are we communicating, just, I know this is discussion tonight, but like for the endowment part, for Clemson Paul Partners, how are we communicating?
We'll have to go back and just talk to them, let them know.
So, okay.
And if they want, they can even come to the work session. We can let them know when it is.
Okay. That's what I would recommend, yeah.
And do you think timing-wise, the time for us to get the endowment structure established to offer people grants of work out for them, if we're able to fund them partially through that, it would get in place in time?
Yes, we're budgeting that. We actually budgeted a lot of that today. We put it in a fund, but we know that it's going to go over to that. So it's being set aside. I think we moved it to community development.
That makes sense.
Questions, comments? Please, Justin, Lindsay, if we don't see her, thank you for putting this all together. Contacting each one, because I know that takes a lot of time and energy. Appreciate it. No other comments? Okay. Thank you, Andy. Thanks for filling in. Chief, you're back up.
Mayor, council members, as you're all aware, we went on the venture of applying for SCORE funding through the SCORE grant, and we have been awarded 2. The second one now is with Clemson University. The contract was in the packet, I'm assuming it was attached.
Yes.
It is a project that we will be doing with the researchers in the health campus area to try to identify where the need for opioid and other recovery services, where that need exists within our community, within the city of Clemson, to work in tandem with Favor Upstate so that we can do the outreach that we need to for them. And we just need to codify the agreement for the project in the form of this contract. We've already been awarded the funding from SCORE. Answer any questions if you have.
Questions or comments?
So you got the funding from SCORE based on that we were going to work with Clemson University, or you're wanting to work with Clemson University?
We did a proposal to SCORE that we were partnering with Clemson University to do the research as described in the contract.
Okay, gotcha, thank you.
Just clarify the amounts, 151,000, is that correct?
Yes.
153, but close enough.
153, right.
In the document, yes. I don't recall the number off the top of my
Just to comment, I'm just delighted by this. The two faculty who are just really committed to this in the community and to this challenge in the community. They're kind of young faculty and they're just wonderful folks.
I'll also add it's needed because we are a very blessed community and we don't see the visual indications of opioid use and abuse in our community. But we know and suspect that it's there. We just need to be able to find it. If we wait till it's visible, then it's too late, and that's the whole purpose for this research.
Good point. All right. Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it. And I didn't even, but you took care of it, so leading exactly with the agenda item. So next is to discuss the adoption of the Clemson area long-range transportation plan. Nathan.
So this is a plan that we've worked together with Clemson University, Anderson County, and Pickens County. When we originally got funding, or partial funding from GPATS before we moved to ACAS when we switched MPOs. This has been a pretty long plan we've worked through. There's two things I'd like to bring to your attention. I think it's on page, Andy, I'll get it for you. 38. Yeah, so if you look right here, one of the big things that we did was looking at not just our growth, but the growth of the region, showing that, density in the areas that you kind of already see growth happening is going to help plan for our long-range transportation needs. This plan is looking 25 years in the future. One of the big things is the preservation of green space, which is obviously taken a lot of by the experimental forest, but also just in general from around the area, but also the density and growth. These were the kind of growth corridors that were identified. If you keep on going over to the next few areas, that's where we start going into our recommendations. If you go down to page 43. This is the fund map that shows all the project recommendations. They've been broken down to a couple of different categories. Bicycle facilities, which were largely grabbed from talking with all the different times we had public input, but as well as pulling different plans from the different municipalities. Modernization projects, which range from anywhere from safety projects, which means you're adding 2-3 feet of pavement, similar to what just happened on Berkeley, to intersection improvements, whether it's going from to a signalized intersection or something like that, where we're looking at the growth, we think that's going to be a necessary item. Complete streets is the complete streets where you're looking at roads that would be improved for all users, so that's not just drivers, but also pedestrians, cyclists, and bus users. We also looked at new construction, and there's only one item on new construction right there, is that dark red line, dark maroon line that you see right there. That's following the old Cherry Road pathway and then parallels the train, so it would tie into 76. This is, I think, one of the big things that we've always heard is a bypass, and working with our consultant team, looking at where we could possibly do that. One of the options was to basically do improvements to the existing bridge on Cherry Road that would connect it to Wells Highway, connecting that to 76, and then if you use Issaquena as your kind of continuation of that, connecting to 123 and then back to 93. So providing opportunities for bypass there was one of the recommendations. The goal, so I mean, the list of all the recommendations here, you can kind of go through on the next following pages. It shows kind of what the jurisdiction is, whether it's Anderson County, Pickens County, Clemson University. Also looks at the project type, name, and then approximate cost as well. So this was an unconstrained cost estimate, but we did rank everything. We have a large compendium of documents behind this that have rankings that were used, that multiple people went into to come up with a valuation and rankings for this that would be presented to ACATS if adopted, so that it would be able to be used in their long-range transportation planning that they're currently going through right now. So they're going through a 2045 long-range transportation plan that's going to be updated to 2050 this year, 2051 actually, and so they're going to be going through that. But I'm here for any questions.
This is complicated.
It is.
I just got a curious question. The bypass concept, is that really possible? I've always heard that we'd be so close to the railroad that the railroad wouldn't allow it. But is it really realistic? Could we ever get a bypass in your estimation?
So I will say this, I think it's not a short-term solution, but the reason we look 25 years in the future is, there'd be 5 years of land acquisition associated with that project. And so, but the nice thing is that looking at it and one of the reasons that this really came kind of available is we roundtabled it together, with representatives from Clemson University, Anderson County, and the city of and ACATS all sitting on a Zoom call for about 20 minutes roundtabling. It's like, is that possible? And I think that we all kind of came to the conclusion is it's definitely a reach, but it would be possible. And if it was something that the state and ACATS decided to promote, it would be something that would be, in that 25 years would be an option. What I always like to tell people is the city and university did one of these back in '91. So yes, it's a little bit longer than 25 years, but the idea is that of all the recommendations, widen 93, widen Perimeter Road, improve the intersection at 9376, improve the intersection at 12376, improve the intersection at 123, 93, all these major improvements that were already requested, we've met that goal. And now it took us an extra 5 years, but it still was, the goal of trying to look at what was needed and what would be needed to accommodate the growth expectations that were coming were met. And so, that's the reason this is valuable, is that it gives us the opportunity to really look at where we're looking at, how the growth is going to be come in and what is needed to make sure that we can sustain that growth through our transportation infrastructure.
Are other municipalities looking to adopt a plan as well?
Yeah.
Do you have any comments or feedback from those? Not yet.
Everybody's been pretty receptive to it, and we've had a lot of good feedback, and ACATS has taken at least an initial review of it and been pretty excited about it. We've also had the District 3 SCDOT's also reviewed this and been pretty excited about it as well. So this is it's been a lot of work for about a year and a half for a lot of people, and it's just this is the final kind of document for everything associated with that.
So to elaborate on that question, who keeps on championing it going forward? I know you are, but what about the other entities? We rely on ACAPS or?
Yeah, so this report will be handed to ACATS, and then we'll champion. I think it's a kind of a joint champion if you're championing the projects are within your traditional boundaries. But the great thing about this project is it developed a really good working relationship with the other people that are associated with the different municipalities that have worked through this and made this project a possibility. So we were able to use that knowledge and that team working relationship to really keep going and maintain it. The next project that we'll talk about, which is SS4A, is that has an actual component to it to meet for kind of biannual meetings, but a lot of the people who were involved in the SS4A project were involved in this project as well. So we're going to continue meeting and continue discussing. And the nice thing about this is it does work through those boundary projects that are always hard to determine who's a champion of it. But I think because we have this framework that we can rely on we can start talking. We have the people we need to talk with, and we also have the kind of at least a description of the project that we're trying to work on, so we both know the goals between whoever's.
And that bypass project plays to the long-term plans over where I work. Because the Wells Highway is designed as the belt line for Seneca to get you to both sides, and it puts you on Shiloh Road dumping into downtown. So that's long-term vision over there too.
The projects that were identified in the study, because they were in the study, came through this process, they're going to be prioritized and more competitive for funding.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Nathan, you're still on.
Yeah, so.
Want to read? Yeah.
Yeah, so this is a quick presentation so in conjunction with the Long Range Transportation Plan, we also did the Safe Streets for All, or SS4A summary. Use a lot of acronyms, and acronyms are where I live, and I'm really sorry about that. So if I say something you don't understand, please interrupt me. I have no problem. Part of this project is, we look past and we're looking at the past, and we're trying to resolve the future. So, past is all the accidents and incidences that we've had. in our transportation network in the Clemson University area. We do like to at least mention that, since in that study period that we looked at, we did have 8 lives lost in our transportation network, and so it's just a matter of, it is one of the items, it's like the 3rd page on the actual report. Just to kind of, we want to make sure we highlight that. Yeah, so a little bit about this SS4A program. This is, it was created in the Infrastructure Jobs Act. This is a program that has 5 years of funding. We're expecting it to be reallocated again in the next funding cycle. Biggest issues, biggest kind of check marks for what the goal is for this project is understanding where our incidences and accidents happen, and then also reducing those or making a goal of the community that is approving or adopting their action plans to reduce those accidents through strategic planning and design. This kind of goes into that. One of the big things that we did is we do have a 0 deaths. We brought that to y'all earlier this year by 2040. The comprehensive plan to the, you can go to the next one. Sorry. Thanks. Okay. So the big thing is using federal highway safe systems approach is where the kind of benchmark for how this plan was developed. It includes going through everything, and it has kind of different options where you're looking at road users, you're looking at all users, making sure that just not the drivers or the walkers or the pedestrians or the bikers are safe. You're making sure that everybody that uses our network is safe. This is just we did already make the commitment for 2040 for 0 traffic fatalities. That is one of the requirements for the SS4A grant. So going through what our study area was, this is the high injury network. So you see the areas in red are obviously the highest injury networks. The areas in orange kind of drop down a little bit. If you actually look at that, it kind of follows what you traditionally think is where you have more people, you have more injuries. So it kind of luckily it follows trends. I guess there's some value in that, is because we're not trendsetters, we're just following a trend. So it's a little bit easier to design around because everybody's already designing for that same kind of concern. So some of the recommendations that we come through forward with is we actually have an action plan, so that's what we're looking to adopt right now. There's 4 components to that. There's the policy, which is what we kind of went through already. Priority site applications, we have several sites that have been selected and kind of ranked in priority for that. It includes the crash reduction strategies, which involves many different departments throughout Clemson University and the city of Clemson as well. And then we have every 2-year annual reporting monitoring that we have to provide to federal highways because of the action plan as well. You'll see that this is the policy item page. There's some details associated with that. This is a lot of information on one slide, and I'm sorry about that, but it's kind of the thing. One of the real quick for the crash reductions is you'll see a lot of stuff that we're already doing. So you'll see the pedestrian refuge islands, similar to what was installed on College Avenue recently, about last year actually. You'll see curb extensions, which is where you're making it to where it's easier to see left and right when you come to an intersection. RFFBs, the rectangular flashing, rapid flashing beacons, which, same thing, we have those on College Avenue. We've installed them in multiple other places in town and looking at other places. Daylighting crossings, so that if you actually look at the new plan for what the streetscape's gonna be, it takes a lot of opportunities to daylight crossings to improve pedestrian safeties. And then, bicycle strategies to make sure that we're improving bicycle safety is one of the major points for that. And then priority applications. So when we were doing the action plan, we tried to narrow our focus just to kind of prioritize major high injury network areas that we can do improvements that we can also hopefully reduce accidents and reduce fatalities. One of the ones I would like to highlight is the intersection of the off-ramp from 76 to 93 going near First Citizens. One of the recommendations there is, we've all talked about, but just even the sight distance from the red light and the green on that signal going away from the university is just moving the mast arm. So we were already in works with DOT, but this just reaffirms kind of what we've all been working on. So it's small improvements to make major changes, kind of the goals for that. And then the next slide we'll go through, so performance and monitoring evaluation, there is required time periods where we make report back. This is where we're talking about that the Clemson University and the city will meet together on a biannual basis and review each of our performance metrics while we're individually working towards a goal, but talking about how we can work together to meet that goal. And then this is just the kind of the final portion of this project is that we have a self-certification that we have to complete. That self-certification is, once we adopt it, we have some dates we have to put in, and those dates will then allow the action plan to be approved by the federal highways. So, any questions?
So university and you will meet, I assume this falls under a JCUAB? Is it regular agenda item or separate?
It's not really in the JCUAB category, but that's one of the reasons that we did partner is because of JCUAB. So like, we're kind of meeting outside of JCUAB, but then we'll take some of those recommendations to our respective JCUAB boards.
Because it could be good to make it efficient, to make it kind of under that structure, since you've got to always meet anyway.
Yeah.
And that helps give some things for that group to chew on.
I mean, I agree. I mean, and we could definitely make it.
Sounds.
Because of Adam.
Other questions or comments? We appreciate all the thoroughness. I know you're a limited group, and we appreciate all the work you're doing.
Thanks.
The university might have a few more people. I don't know. I don't know how many people you're working with.
Yeah, we had a pretty large sizable group from the city and then pretty large sizable group from the university all working together on this.
That's good to hear. That's great to hear. All right, Nathan, you got one last item.
Stone Circle.
That's right. There you go.
Yeah, so this is a really, really small section of right-of-way that's an offshoot from Stone Circle. This was a cutoff from when 76 was, the land was acquired for 76. So if you go on the other side of Goldman, it's Simpson Road, and so you can see where the two roads would tie together. The property owner on the north and south of the little piece of right-of-way is just requesting for us to dedicate the right-of-way to them. This is kind of consistent with what we've done previously. Even on Stone Circle, there was another property owner who requested us to abandon a section of right-of-way. There's no utilities running on this. There's nothing else associated with it in engineering, and everybody else is in agreement this would be okay to abandon.
Questions, comments for Nathan? All right, thank you very much. Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Yeah, you too. Next is staff report, Sandy.
Two things for you. If you haven't heard, last Friday, we found out that the police department was named DUI and Drug Enforcement Agency of the Year for South Carolina.
Yay.
Right off the heels of being accredited, they're in rare air right now. The other thing was I wanted to schedule a work session with you guys so we can go over the endowment and nonprofit support structure with the Community Foundation. How does prior to your meeting on May 4th sound?
I won't be able to do it prior to. Well, what time are you talking?
Probably only take 30 minutes or so.
No, I mean, when you say prior, what time prior?
5:30?
Because I have an awards program at the university that starts at 2, should end about 4:30.
Oh, you'll be,
I think.
depending on where it is.
Just started at 5:45.
We can start at 5:45, no problem.
That work?
That should be enough time.
5:45.
I can try to make it work. I may have family in town, so that's the only reason I'm.
Does the 18th work? I know, Robert, are you flying out for ATG?
I'll be out.
Okay.
I would say let's do it sooner than later.
I would agree.
We'll make sure if you're running, catch you up.
Yeah, if you all have to go without me, then
So-
that's fine.
Okay.
I'm receiving an award that day, so I don't know how long it'll last, so.
So endowment, 5:45 on the 4th.
Yes,
We'll let Ally know.
I will.
Okay.
Allie, Nathan, do you guys have anything? That's all we have, Mr. Mayor.
All right, that's quick. We'll give you time to put it in the calendar. All right. Next is policy action. Just a reminder, 2-minute limit per speaker. Flip over to make sure. First is consider first reading of an amendment to the city's FOIA policy. Andy, you're back on again.
All this does, it's really non-substantive. It just makes the language more aligned with what's in state and federal laws for FOIA.
Questions or comments?
Did you have in here what it was before?
It was certain adjectives.
Oh, okay, so we're
like that.
talking about that kind of tweaking?
Right.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, nothing in how you handle these has changed.
Just understood.
It went from, he said sensitive to saying what's in the state or what's
Right,
allowed
right.
by law, something like
Changing
that.
some words that just mimics more what the state and federal law say, instead of the descriptives that were used.
Comments from the public? Somebody like to make a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the first reading of an amendment to the city's FOIA policy.
Second.
All right, any comments? All in favor, raise your right hand. All right, thank you very much. Next is consider a first reading of 2026 R02 proposed text amendment, mixed-use, high-density development. Nathan, you're back on?
Yes, and for once, I'm not gonna give a presentation. This is, there have been no changes since the last presentation that I gave on this matter. This simply alters our chapter 19 of our city zoning code. There's a host of changes in there, including how to define mixed use, the number of stories allowed on College Avenue at 93. And just for your information, this was passed by Planning Commission on March 9th with a positive recommendation. I'm here for any questions you have, and also have my staff here, who obviously are going to know it a little bit better than I am.
Questions or comments for Nathan or the team? Comments from the public? I do have one that was submitted. I'll read that.
Sure.
So this was submitted by Catherine Huddle on 204 Edgewood Avenue. I have the following concerns with the proposed changes to mixed-use development. First, overall, these changes are very generous to developers and will allow them to build much taller student housing developments. The developments this zoning targets are those that can't meet the 2-acre requirement for a planned development. Currently, the requirements for such development keep them somewhat in line with residential areas and businesses fronting College Avenue. It almost feels like these changes are designed to help developers with their eyes on Hillcrest and North Clemson, since those areas are left out of the neighborhood overlay, and it may be harder for developers to acquire 2 contiguous acres in those areas. It also appears designed to help developers asking for the PD on Pine Street. These changes would allow them to build their 6-story apartments if their PD application is rejected. One interesting item is that the proposed changes limit the height of buildings fronting College Avenue or commercial district to 2 stories, but buildings next to single-family residence could be up to 5 stories, not counting the first story if it is partially below grade or the penthouse. Hopefully you will see the sad irony with this. My biggest concern is with the change from maximum height to stories. All right, I'm trying to read this as quickly. The change to not counting the first story if it's 60% below grade adds another allowed story. Also, the grade limitations are not specified. Does the entire floor need to be at least 60% below grade or just a portion of it? The change to not counting a penthouse as a 20-foot setback also adds another story. Don't be fooled by the footprint limitation. The current ordinance is clear and achieves the goal of limiting height. The proposed changes are vague and ultimately will allow buildings nearly twice as high as the current ordinance, based on my research and best practices for zoning, to include both height and number of story limits. These buildings are now being built of wood. That's as much as I could read within the 2 minutes. All right, other comments? Would somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the first reading of 2026-R-02 proposed text amendment, mixed-use high-density development as presented.
Second.
Any comments or discussion? All right, all in favor, raise your right hand. All right, thank you very much. Next is consider a resolution appointing Councilmember John Fulmer to serve as ex officio liaison to the Board of Directors of the Friends of the Green Crescent. Andy, you're on here, but you want to say anything?
This here is,
Thank you. CJ.
this isn't specific to John, this is a council member of y'all's choosing to represent them, so, in January, when he is no longer serving on council, you will appoint another person. So it says him specifically on here, but it's a council member of your choosing.
I nominate John.
Second.
That was quick. That was quick. Comments from the public? I mean, that was a nomination. How are we doing this when his term ends? So we just,
Reappoint the position,
who's gonna-
choose someone else.
I'm just making sure who's gonna remember to. I'm just making sure.
I'll have to put something in my calendar.
I'm just trying to be better to make sure we always follow through.
This was requested by the Green Crescent Trail.
Yes.
They'll also, it'll be a double.
A member.
The resolution itself is actually requested by them.
Okay.
Yes.
So we'll have both. That's perfect.
Remember when they did, it was what, a time or two ago?
That was just nice.
So
Got a nomination. So, yeah.
I make a motion to appoint Councilmember John Fulmer to serve as ex officio liaison to the Board of Directors of the Friends of the Green Crescent Trail.
Second.
Okay. Comments? All in favor, raise your right hand. John, you can raise it.
Just talk, should I raise it?
You're outnumbered right now. I mean, anyway.
You were outvoted.
Yep. All right. Other policy items. Authorize the city administrator to negotiate a contract with Creech and Associates for property and growth needs assessment.
Creech and Associates was the firm that we thought was most responsive and best able to do our comprehensive property study and growth needs analysis, teach us how to best leverage what we have. We were woefully low on what we thought this would cost, because when you do all of this, you have to determine the values of all these properties. So this is just gonna allow me to go back and negotiate a legitimate price for it. And I believe it's gonna probably cover, this one may cover 2 fiscal years, or be half in one and half in the other. But anyway, I'll come back with a full contract for your approval at the next meeting.
Any comments, questions for Andy from the public? All right. Would somebody like to make the
I'll make a motion that we authorize the city administrator to negotiate a contract with Creech and Associates for property and growth needs assessment.
Second.
Any comments? All in favor, raise your right hand. All right, thank you very much. Thanks, Andy. Next is mayor council reports. I'll make mine too quick. This past weekend, Brian and the chamber organized, well, they didn't organize it, was through the road crew team, but they had, I think, 20-plus teams all visiting our area, which I thought was great on Saturday morning. They were here all day. I think a lot of them came in Friday night, patronized our businesses and spent time in our community, so that was great to see. Also, this was very energizing for me. I went to a one-year business owners, one-year anniversary. I won't name the business because I don't want to feel like we're prioritizing a certain business over another. All businesses, we want them to do well. But it was also re-energizing to see the atmosphere, the vibe, celebrating 1 year. What a compliment to one of our businesses within our community. And then there were numerous people coming in from outside, namely a couple from Athens, Georgia, that said they loved being here in the city of Clemson. So it was great to hear. It was very encouraging, and it's just great to see our businesses thrive. So congratulations. I won't say the business, but they celebrated 1 year. That's a big deal to get to that 1 year mark. So I just had to share that. Other comments? All right, I was the only one talking. Great. New business. All right. Would somebody like to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Any comments or discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All right, thank you very much. Have a great evening.
That's the easiest.